thank you so much for having me, and hopefully everyone can hear me. I am Cheryl Blakeney. I'm a financial educational coach. My career itself is accounting. I have been in the business for over 40 plus years, so I definitely know the value of money because I've been working with companies for over 40 years. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is understanding why you need a budget. Most companies, I know working in a corporate world, most companies always started their budget like around August, and then it had to be approved by November. So I know the importance of having a budget. So my goal is to make sure that you understand the importance of having a personal budget. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And I'm going to start my slideshow. Okay. I'm not sure why it's not starting. Hold on 1 minute. I'm sorry, guys. Let me try that again. Sometimes technology agrees with you and sometimes it doesn't.
How's it going?
Yes. All right. I'm just going to just go through the slideshow through my PowerPoint presentation because it's not letting me advance. So basically, we're going to talk about why you need a budget. And like I said, most people don't realize what a budget is and why they need a budget. So a budget is basically a spending plan based on your estimated income and expenses over a set period of time. Now, I know in corporations, they usually did theirs over a year, but you can have a budget based on whatever time you want. It can be a month, 2 months, and it kind of depends on, what your strategy is when it comes to your budget. So what is the purpose of the budget? The purpose of a budget is to determine if you have enough money to do all the things you have to do and what you want to do. So when we talk about a budget, people say, well, I don't need a budget. I can pay my bills on a monthly basis. If you have a budget, if you pay your bills on time, that if you pay your bills personally on time and you have a small business, that means you're going to pay your business expenses on time as well. So some of the things that, when it comes to a budget is 6 reasons why people need a budget. The first thing is to control your spending habits. Now, what do I mean when I say control your spending habits? Most people, they get paid, they don't think about, okay, they think about spending versus saving first. So the goal is you want to think about saving versus spending. So you want to make sure that you have some type of plan in place when it comes to spending. Another reason why you want to have a budget is it helps you make better financial decisions. Like I said, when you have a budget in place, whether you're a business or an individual, if you have it helps you make better financial decisions. So say you want to buy a computer or a printer or a scanner for your business, or even just for your home use, you want to make sure, okay, is this the right time for me to to be buying a computer or a printer or a scanner at this time? So it will help you make better financial decisions. And a third reason why you want to have a budget is establish an emergency fund. They said 78% of America has less than $500 saved in the bank for an emergency fund. So the goal is to make sure that you're starting to have an emergency fund, or at least working towards it, because that's so, so important. Okay, another reason for having a budget is a foundation for saving. Like I said, most people, they get paid $1, they spend 75 cents, they save 25 cents. The goal is you want to save more than you spend. So if you spend 25 cents and save 75 cents, the goal of saving, whatever your goal is, you would get to that plan a lot faster. So the foundation of saving is so, so important when it comes to your budget. Paying off debt and keeping out of debt. They said the average credit card debt is about $16,000 per individual. And then you have student loan debt. So if you are not in debt, please don't get on that hamster wheel. I call it a hamster wheel. Because a hamster wheel, they get on it, they just keep going around and around and they never get off. Same thing happens when you have debt. You want to make sure if you're not in debt, to stay out of debt. And if you're in debt, you want to make sure you have a strategy to pay off your debt, especially if you have credit cards. Okay. And then the last thing when it comes to having a budget is staying focused on your long-term goal. We have our short-term goals, we have our midterm goals, and we have our long-term goals. But our goal is to make sure that we have a goal in place. They always say, never change your goal. You might have a plan to get to where you need to go, but never ever change your goals to get to where you need to go. Okay. So I want you to consider some of these things to consider when you're budgeting. Are you conscious of your spending? Like I said, when it comes to your spending, you know, we don't think about spending. We think about, no, we think about more of saving. We think about more spending versus saving. So when it comes to a budget, our goal is to be focused and be, you know, be very conscious of your spending. So if you have a budget and you say, okay, this month I'm going to spend $200 on a computer. So if you go out and you see a computer that's $300, remember that wasn't in your budget. So you're only going to spend what you actually are allocated to spend, because the goal is you have a goal in place. And so the goal is to make sure, you know, based on your consciousness of your spending, that's the goal that you wanted to get to. How much time do you spend making others rich than investing in yourself? And that's so important. You know, a personal budget, a small business budget, it's all the same thing. But you want to make sure that your goals are you are investing in yourself. You are investing in your future, especially if you have a small business. But like I said, the importance of having a personal budget is just as important as having a budget when you have a small business. As an accountant, you know, being in a business for over 40 plus years, like I said, I understand the importance of having a budget, because that's actually determines how your money is going to get spent. And the last thing is, do you desire to have a better relationship with money? Meaning, how comfortable are you with your money? You know, do you want to make sure that what you're spending is, you know, what you're spending is what you're spending is something that you want to be spending it on, or what you're saving, that you're saving it for a certain thing as well. Okay. And then we're going to talk about increasing your cash flow. So when we talk about increasing your cash flow, actually, Robert Kiyosaki actually created the four quadrants of cash flow. You have your employee, you have your self-employed, you have your business owner, and you have your investor. So when you talk about your employee, basically you're exchanging time for money. You have a job, and then, you know, if you work 40 hours a week, you're going to get paid for 40 hours a week. If you work 30 hours a week, that's what you're going to get paid for. So you're exchanging your time for money, and you basically don't have no leverage, because if your boss says you can't take a vacation, then you can't take a vacation. So you're actually exchanging your time for money. So it's 100% of your time for your income. Then you have your self-employed. Now it's the same thing, but they own their own job. So they're still exchanging their time, except they're making a little bit more money. However, if they don't go to work, they're not going to get paid. Those would be like your barbers, your hairdressers, nail technicians, attorneys, dentists, and things like that. So you're trading your time for your money, but you don't own your time. Okay. And then you have, so that would be what they call linear income. And then you have what we call residual income. So basically, a business owner, you own a system and people work for you. So would you rather own 1% times 100 people, or 100% of your income to have your income on a weekly, daily basis? So those are your business owners. And then you have your investors. Now, investors realize the importance of how money works, and money is going to work for you. So they actually dollar equal more dollars. So though, their income is not dependent on them being at their business. They can be on vacation, they can be in Europe, they can be anywhere, but they're still going to be making money, because they are the investor. They are the investors. So when it comes to your cash flow, you want to spend less, you want to earn more, you want to start a business, and you definitely want to understand the cash flow quadrant. When we look at the cash flow quadrant, employees and self-employed, they make up 95% of the population. However, they only own 5% of the wealth. Then you have your business owners and your investors. They make up 5% of the population, but they have 95% of the wealth. Which quadrant do you want to represent? So when we're talking about the benefit of owning a small business, these are just some of the tax breaks that a small business owner received. I do recommend having a CPA or a tax accountant because they know some of the benefits that you can write off. Right now, some of the deductions, since everybody's working from home, you can write off a portion of your home, office supplies that you buy, even certain furniture that you buy, computer equipment, software. If you're traveling, using your car, different mileages, even car expenses if it pertains to your job, your cell phone, advertising, educational classes. If you have to take educational classes for your business, if you have to take any type of CPE classes for your business, that can be written off as well. And most people don't know if you have a child, if you have one of your children and you're paying them and they're working in your home based business, you can actually write that off as an expense. So actually, the tax law was actually written for the small business owner, the 1099 versus the W-2, because there's so many different deductions that you can take as a small business owner. So that's extra money that you're saving, that you're putting in your pocket on a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis. So I just want to leave you with a few stats. Some of today's challenges when it comes to your finances. The average U.S. household carries a credit card balance of $16,852. Over 40% of Americans have no life insurance coverage. 78% of Americans have less than $500 in savings for emergency fund. Like I said, emergency fund is very, very crucial. Back in March 2019, back in March 2020, when 57 million people get let go from their job, I don't think 57 million people had 3 to 6 months of their income saved up. And then you have 45% of people that's getting ready to retire have less than $50,000 in savings and investments to be put away for retirement. And then nearly 8 in 10 workers actually live paycheck to paycheck. So, like I said, when it comes, these are just some of the challenges that we face. And some of these challenges can be alleviated if you actually have a budget set in place. So this is my information. My company is Elevated Wealth Group. You can reach out to me by LinkedIn. Some of the service that we offer, we actually offer a complimentary financial analysis, meaning I can sit down with you, go through your budget, or if you don't have a budget, help you establish a budget, go through your income, your expenses, see if there's any recommendations that I can help you with. We also focus on tax-free retirement accounts. Make sure that you have those financial goals in place. If you have children, making sure you start an educational fund for them early. We have mortgage protection insurance, estate planning. Estate planning is so, so important. But all these financial services all start with having a personal budget. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email. You can text me, but this is my information. And I'm Cheryl Blakeney. I'm so glad to be here with Jairus. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope you was able to get some financial nuggets from this information.